Hi friends, it's Tuesday, September 16th, 2014. Lynn and Jamie here, continuing our assignment. The intentions for today's work are to heal the root causes of Jamie's muddled thinking and muddled communication. Did I say it right?
Muddled speech.
Muddled speech, muddled communication, muddled thinking, and whatever that represents. And in addition, to heal the root causes of feelings of shakiness and whatever that represents in such a way as to align Jamie with her soul plan and to trigger the awakening whose time has come. And now we begin. Noticing the nadis very clogged, noticing the meridian system pretty much malfunctioning. And noticing when we ask the higher soul for permission that the higher soul is bound and gagged in the corner over there with big eyes. She can't speak. She's got like duct tape over her mouth. And
I see that.
Yeah. And so, but she says yes with her eyes, asking her to feel free to place any limitation she wants on this healing and know that they'll be honored. Feeling the access, nice big access, moving into the access, asking the guides, angels, healing light beings, higher dimension beings, wow, to join us, and we begin. And instantly there's like a film crew, but it's like at a crime scene.
Yeah.
They're police-looking people taking pictures, and it's just the crime scene is here, and so they're taking fingerprints, etc. And somebody's going over there and helping your higher soul get untied and the gag off, and walking her off, to give her a drink of water and settle her down and see what's going on. And now while that's happening, I am to clear these nadis first and meridian second, and perhaps it will overlap because we see the nadis have been injected with something that just stops the flow. Boom.
See that?
Yeah, and it's like it's a formula that you put in, and then it turns to gel. It's like putting in a powder into a liquid, like a flow that should be liquid, and boom, then the whole river turns to gel. And I see someone sneaking away. This is in the past. This is when it happened. I was asking, how did this happen? And it's someone very familiar, sneaking away with like sharp pointy teeth and like feeling very pleased that he did this, feels very familiar, this energy. He knew that was the doorway in. I don't know what he's talking about, but he is thinking to himself, I knew that was the doorway in.
It's true, it's like a cartoon villain.
Cartoon.
Like doing the fingers, drumming.
Yes, he is. Cartoon villain. Very much the cartoon villain. Except that he really did inject this powder that looks like a red dust. It looks vaguely similar to cayenne pepper, but it has the reaction of just stopping the flow. It just stops the flow of energy through the nadi system. So whatever the doorway was is a good question, and we'll circle around to that. But for now, we just have to suction out. I asked the light beings what to do, and they say, well, first just suction that out. We just start fresh. Suction out that nasty stuff, but send it up for evidence. And I'm also sending up the film of what happened. Like we just saw what happened. They just showed us what happened. Yeah. So sending that up, live feed to the Nuremberg trials. And this is a trial in progress. This is like a trial that the person is being tried right now. The nadis look like water flow systems to me, hydraulics, and they're showing me things like locks that barges move through.
Yeah.
And there's damage to the locks, the mechanisms of the locks.
I see that. It's like they've been rusted or bashed.
Bashed. I see them rusty and bashed.
Yeah.
So they say, well, the unbashing we can do, but as to the maintenance, we've got to do our own self-care work, right?
Right.
And if we aren't doing our own self-care work, well then, things are going to rust right away.
That's true.
It's going to happen right away. And to not let things go on without being addressed. Now, we can see how beings all over the planet are being affected like this. People's thinking is getting muddled and they're shutting down. We can see it around us, just in common speech with regular people. They are talking like this, like with muddled thinking. They are not expressing themselves clearly. They don't say what they mean. It's extremely difficult to have conversations with many people. Have you noticed that?
That's true.
Yes. And so we have a planet full of muddled thinkers right now. And so if it's happened to you, it could have happened to all of them, right? Oh. Drawing up screens with the intention to clear and turn in as evidence the things that we're all doing to create this pattern and to continue the pattern. Things that we're all doing. Me too, me too, me too. Create the pattern of muddled thinking and continue the pattern of muddled thinking. And so the guides are saying, what do you know? Well, I know that when we don't want to think about something, this is a pattern that we often employ. They say, that's right. When we don't want to think about something, we set up roadblocks in our minds. And then our thinking falls apart. And since we as a biosphere are facing some pretty tough choices, having passed by all the earlier better choices, what we're left with now are only difficult choices. This is where the phrase between a rock and a hard place really applies, right?
That's true.
We as a biosphere are between a rock, which is a stone cold rock falling through space, right? And a hard place, which is total destruction of civilization for a really long time, and having to figure out how to survive, thrive, and fulfill our soul plans without easily available things, right?
Right.
So that's the hard place. Yeah, I get it, it's hard. Right. Now the only problem with that statement is that the rock is lots of small rocks, because earth blown to bits, you see, creates lots of small rocks. So between rocks and a hard place, right?
That's true.
So we're between rocks and a hard place. And therefore we push things out of our minds, which is rusting our lock mechanisms, right? Not maintaining, and then not maintaining our energy bodies, and then doors open and beings can get in saying, I knew that was the door, right? And then they can sabotage our hydraulics, bash the lock mechanisms so they don't work at all. So we see the fluid itself that was going through the Nadis system before the injection of that powder has an attitude, a flavor to it, a color to it, a vibration to it that makes it susceptible. And it's kind of one of entitlement. Entitlement. So an attitude of entitlement creates receptivity to that powder. It's kind of like when some people catch diseases that other people wouldn't catch, right?
Right.
Yes. And so if we think, well, things should happen for me a certain way, and they don't, then we can get a little about it, a little have an attitude about it that then creates a fertile field for something horrible to grow in. So there's an eyedropper here, and it's full of the antidote. So do you want to do it? Here you go. I'll give you the eyedropper.
Thank you.
Just start dripping it into the flow of hydraulics. What is the antidote for an undertone of entitlement?
It's not humility. I thought it was humility.
It's not it.
It actually feels closer to selflessness.
It does. It feels a lot closer to selflessness. So who among us doesn't have an attitude of entitlement from time to time, right? Me too, me too, me too. So now let's just put drops of selflessness in all of us, right? We can always become more selfless, right? At finer and finer levels, right? It's true that some people do seem to have good things come to them, but they come to them not for them, but to turn around and serve the greater good with. Turn around and serve, turn around and help someone. This isn't for us. This is for the world, for the universe, for the greater good, for the all that is, for the all that is. Dripping drops of selflessness until that current flows clear.
Giant industrial-looking elevator.
As big as Manhattan, full of poor me, fantasy stories of victimization, full of fantasy stories of victimization.
It looks like there are a lot of people's stories.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the stories are
individual but similar.
Yeah.
Individual but similar. Right?
Yeah.
The common tone is poor me and then fantasy. You know,
yeah.
Like it's totally, maybe there was a kernel of truth to it.
Yeah,
right?
but it looks like everything's in costume.
It's all costumes and stage props.
Yeah.
It's the lies. Wow. The lies we tell ourselves. Lies we tell ourselves. Especially the lies we tell ourselves about childhood. Especially the lies we tell ourselves about being victimized. It's because now they say, now why do I know about this? Well, here's what I know. I know that for each of us, our souls have plans for our lives before we're born, and that our childhoods are designed perfectly so that we have exactly what we need so that we're able to fulfill our soul plan. And many of us have childhoods that are full of suffering, real suffering. The suffering is real, but it's necessary in order for us to be able to live our soul plan in some way, shape, or form. They say, what else do I know? They say, that's right, what else do I know? From about ages 8 to 10, the onset of reason occurs. This is the period of time during which we begin to make our own choices rather than just reacting. And at that point in time, because we're making our own choices and we're beginning to engage with the free will dance, even if our choices are simply how we're going to think about things, right?
Right.
We're still making choices. And therefore, at that point in time, the protection and the monitoring that's been in place to make sure that our childhood is exactly what we need, that protection begins to lift. Until the age of reason, childhoods are precisely what they need to be in order to set us up for our soul plan. Precisely. And so anything, quote, bad, unquote, that happened before we were 8, we can just let go of the idea that that was something gone wrong, because it is exactly what we need in order to live our soul plan. Now, after that, free will dance is engaged, right?
Right.
And we're making our own choices. Hang on, it's a wild ride, right?
Right.
Life will then begin to present us with a combination of things that were predestined and the results of our own choices, right?
Right.
Right. So, from everything age 8 and earlier, can we just shove it off the table and into the evidence bin, right? Yeah. There's no point in whining about this. This was perfect, right? This was divinely supervised. And so rather than seeing those things as bad, quote unquote, or wrong, quote unquote, we can see those events as simply events, right?
Right.
As necessary events. That doesn't mean they didn't happen, you know? Those things happened, but it was something that was needed, right?
Right.
Because the truth is, lots and lots of people have extremely difficult and even abusive childhoods, right?
Right.
Some of them emerge from those childhoods with terrible attitudes, right?
It's true.
Attitudes of victimization and entitlement, and now I can't live my soul plan, right?
Right.
And as others of them come out and live their soul plan anyway, right?
That's true.
And maybe live their soul plan not anyway, I said that wrong. Others come out of that and they use what happened to empower themselves to live their soul plan.
That's true.
Bing, the bell went off. Like bing, hit the target on that one. So, Just summarize. Bad things happen in childhood. That's universal, right?
Right.
Every single person, no exceptions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bad things happen. They happen in order to empower us to live our soul plans, right?
Right.
So far, so good. Bad things happen. They happen to empower us to live our soul plans. We can continue on and be empowered to live our soul plans, right?
That's true.
Or we can choose some other crazy idea and use it as an excuse to not live our soul plans, right?
Right.
These might be, for example, the molecular beliefs that molecules have to be formed in a certain way and that they can't be flexible and they can't stretch target to target, right?
Right.
Oh, and so we see how for the biosphere, we also had a childhood quote-unquote as the biosphere, right?
Right.
Where things just were what they were to set us up for our soul plan, living our destiny, right?
That's true.
And that in the time of the awakening, it's the time of letting go of childhood and moving into adulthood, right?
Right.
Letting go of our horizontal ways and moving into a vertical configuration, right?
Right.
Letting go of our old ways of doing things and stretching from source above to source below. And doing what we were born to do, living our soul plans.